Teachers of emotional blackmail were never banned by governments. They were silenced by people who lost power once their tactics were exposed. The emotional blackmailer is close to you, but you don't know it. They use every single tactics on you. They're doing it right now. Someone close to you, maybe even today. The conversation felt wrong, but you couldn't pinpoint why. Something tightened in your chest. Guilt crept in where it had no business being. And before you knew it, you agreed to something you never wanted to do. That wasn't persuasion. That wasn't love. That was emotional blackmail. Power doesn't announce itself. The most dangerous control isn't physical. It's the kind that makes you believe you chose it yourself. Every relationship, every interaction, every moment someone decides they want something from you more than they care about your freedom, this is where true dominance lives. Stay until the end, because what you're about to learn doesn't just explain what happened to you. It arms you with the pattern, the defense, and the cold awareness that changes everything. Fear, obligation, guilt. 3 invisible chains, 1 system of control. The wise prince maintains power not through love alone, but through the calculated management of fear. And emotional blackmail is that principle weaponized in intimate spaces, where no throne exists but the one inside your mind. The blackmailer doesn't need a crown. They need your conscience. They operate by creating fog, a state where your reality becomes negotiable, where your feelings are used as evidence against you, where saying no transforms into an act of cruelty. If you loved me, you would. After everything I've done for you, you're going to regret this. These aren't statements, they're installments. Each one builds a psychological debt you never agreed to owe. And the brilliant cruelty, the elegant mechanism, is that you enforce it on yourself. The blackmailer simply activates the tripwire. You pull the trigger. Rulers who understand power know when to appear merciful. The blackmailer has learned this too. They don't threaten constantly. They withdraw at strategic moments, leaving you desperate to restore the equilibrium, to be good enough again, to prove you're not the selfish monster their silence suggests you are. This is the architecture. You're not weak. You're in a system, and every system has rules. Once you see them, the cage becomes visible, and visibility is the first act of freedom. Fear, obligation, guilt. The acronym spells F.O.G. The fog isn't accidental. It's generated deliberately, though often unconsciously, by someone who has learned that your discomfort is their leverage, a form of statecraft applied to the family, the workplace, the bedroom. Fear is the foundation, not fear of violence, not always. Fear of abandonment, fear of disapproval, fear of being exposed as inadequate, unloving, ungrateful. The blackmailer becomes the arbiter of your worth, and every decision you make is filtered through one question. Will this make them leave? Perceived consequences control behavior far more effectively than actual ones. The threat doesn't need to be explicit. The blackmailer sighs, goes silent. Their face changes. You feel the shift, the temperature drop, and your nervous system registers danger. You comply. Obligation is the contract you never signed. I sacrificed for you. I gave up my dreams. No one else would tolerate this. These are not reflections, they are invoices. Manipulated minds are taught to see debts where none exist. And the blackmailer is a master accountant, tallying sacrifices real and imagined, always ensuring the ledger shows you eternally in the red. Strategic favors create gratitude. Gratitude is currency. The blackmailer has weaponized this ancient principle. They give not out of love, but to create a claim on your future compliance. Guilt is the enforcement mechanism. It's what keeps you trapped even when the logic falls apart. Human interaction follows game structures, scripted patterns where each player has a role. In emotional blackmail, the game is called "See What You Made Me Do." You didn't make them do anything, but the blackmailer rewrites causality. Their pain is your fault. Their anger is your responsibility. Their happiness is your job. And if you fail, when you inevitably fail, because no human can regulate another's emotional state, the guilt floods in and you scramble to fix what you never broke. It is safer to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. The emotional blackmailer inverts this ancient truth. They make you fear their suffering, And that fear looks like love, feels like duty, but functions as a leash. The fog works because it obscures one simple truth. Their emotions are not your responsibility. Hold that. We'll return to it. Power has always had faces. Emotional blackmail has 6, each one a variation on the same theme. Control through emotional hostage-taking, but the tactics differ and recognition is survival. Face 1, the Punisher. You'll regret this. Fine, do whatever you want. The Punisher retaliates, withdraws affection, gives the silent treatment, creates consequences for your autonomy. Fear of punishment ensures obedience. Every boundary you set is met with a penalty, administered with just enough deniability that you question whether you're imagining it. You're not. Face 2, the Self-Punisher. If you leave, I'll fall apart. I can't live without you. You're killing me. The Self-Punisher makes their well-being your hostage. Modern research confirmed what the ancients knew. Pity is the most powerful manipulation tool. The Self-Punisher weaponizes your compassion. They hurt themselves, emotionally, sometimes physically, and make you responsible for stopping it. Appearing vulnerable disarms opponents. The Self-Punisher isn't showing vulnerability. They're manufacturing it as leverage. Phase 3, the Sufferer. Sighs, martyrdom, exhaustion. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. The Sufferer never says what they want. They radiate suffering until you scramble to appease it. This is covert aggression, hostile intent hidden behind a mask of victimhood, the strategy of appearing weak to avoid direct confrontation while still extracting submission. You ask what's wrong, they say nothing. You try harder, they suffer more beautifully. Phase 4, the Tantalizer. If you do this, then I'll prove you love me and I'll... The Tantalizer offers rewards, approval, affection, commitment, but always conditional, always just out of reach. Inconsistent reinforcement creates the strongest behavioral addiction. The Tantalizer gives you just enough to keep you hoping, never enough to feel secure. Hope is useful for controlling subjects. The Tantalizer has mastered this. They keep you performing, auditioning, trying to earn what should be freely given. Phase 5, the Comparer. Other people wouldn't put up with this. Your sister never treats her husband this way. Anyone else would be grateful. The Comparer introduces a phantom audience, an invisible jury always finding you guilty. This creates shame, that uniquely social emotion where you see yourself through hostile eyes. Public opinion shapes reality. The Comparer manufactures a public, real or imagined, whose judgment becomes your prison. Phase 6, the Avoider. Never present, always busy, emotionally absent until you comply. The Avoider doesn't punish actively, they simply disappear and their absence becomes the threat. You learn that your needs drive them away, that asking for anything makes you too much, and slowly you shrink to fit the space they're willing to occupy. Strategic withdrawal is an ancient tactic. The Avoider has learned this. Presence is the reward for submission, absence the punishment for autonomy. 6 faces, 1 goal, your compliance. Why does it work? Simple question, complex answer. Understanding human nature, not as it should be, but as it is. This is the foundation of all power. Emotional blackmail succeeds for the same reason. It exploits fundamental vulnerabilities in how we're wired for connection, reciprocity, and meaning. The reciprocity trap. Humans are hardwired to return favors. The blackmailer knows this. They give, sometimes genuinely at first, then reframe every gift as a debt instrument. You didn't ask for the sacrifice. You didn't want the favor. But the psychological weight of owing is real, primal, and the blackmailer leans on it until you collapse under obligations you never agreed to carry. Benefits should be conferred gradually. This keeps subjects manageable. The blackmailer inverts this ancient principle. They overgive initially, creating a debt so large you can never repay it, ensuring permanent leverage. The consistency principle. You want to see yourself as good, loving, loyal, generous. The blackmailer exploits this. They frame their demands in terms of your identity. If you're really a good person, you'll Now, refusing isn't just about the request, it's about who you are. People lock into roles to maintain psychological consistency. The blackmailer assigns you the role of caretaker, or devoted partner, or grateful child, and every deviation feels like self-betrayal. Adaptation is strength. Rigid identity is weakness. The blackmailer has inverted this. They make your identity rigid, a cage you enforce on yourself to avoid the pain of contradiction. The sunk cost fallacy. You've invested years, energy, love, time. Walking away feels like admitting it was wasted. Totalist systems keep members trapped by making exit psychologically costlier than staying. The blackmailer doesn't need a compound. They just need you to believe that leaving means everything you've endured was for nothing. Appearances matter more than reality. The blackmailer makes the appearance of your relationship, to others, to yourself, more important than its actual quality. You stay to avoid the failure label, even as you slowly disintegrate inside. The learned helplessness. When punishment is unpredictable, resistance collapses. The blackmailer is inconsistent. Sometimes your boundary is accepted, sometimes it triggers a meltdown. You can't predict which, so you stop trying. You learn that your actions don't influence outcomes, that resistance is futile, and this learned helplessness is the blackmailer's most powerful ally. Cruelty should be swift, mercy prolonged. This maintains order. The blackmailer inverts this. Cruelty is chronic and random, making you hyper-vigilant, exhausted, unable to plan an escape because you never know when the next explosion comes. The isolation effect. Blackmail thrives in private. The blackmailer doesn't want witnesses. They want you alone, questioning your reality with no external reference point. Divided opponents are weak opponents. The blackmailer doesn't need to actively isolate you, though many do. They simply make talking about it feel like betrayal, disloyalty, proof that you don't love them enough. You keep the secret. The secret keeps you. This is the machinery, not magic, mechanics. And mechanics can be dismantled. Am I being blackmailed right now? That question haunts you. Here's how you know. Pattern recognition is everything. Seeing through individual actions to the system beneath. Emotional blackmail has patterns. 7 diagnostic markers. If you see 3 or more, you're not paranoid. You're accurate. Marker 1. Your no triggers crisis. Healthy relationships accommodate refusal. Blackmail relationships punish it. You say no to a request, reasonable, small, justified, and suddenly you're facing tears, rage, silent treatment, threats of consequences. Making an example of defiance maintains control. The blackmailer makes an example of your first boundary, ensuring you hesitate before setting another. Marker 2, you're constantly managing their emotions. You monitor their mood, you adjust your behavior. You walk on eggshells, not because you're weak, but because you've learned that their emotional state determines your safety. Manipulators externalize responsibility. Their anger is your fault, their sadness, your obligation. You become a thermostat for someone else's nervous system, the perfect control mechanism. The victim volunteers to be the prison guard. Marker 3, guilt appears without clear cause. You feel bad, you did nothing wrong, but the guilt sits there, heavy, insistent, irrational. This is implanted guilt, cultivated through hints, sighs, comparisons, rewritten history. Words and gestures that bypass logic and strike directly at your emotional core. Shaping perception is how rulers maintain power. The blackmailer shapes your perception of yourself until guilt becomes your default state and relief only comes through compliance. Marker 4, the relationship has a one-way mirror. You're expected to be transparent, to share, to explain, to justify. They remain opaque. Their motives are mysterious. Their rules shift without warning. Appearing predictable makes you vulnerable. The blackmailer has learned this. They stay unpredictable while demanding you be an open book, creating an asymmetry of power disguised as intimacy. Marker 5. You've stopped trusting your own judgment. You second-guess everything. Simple decisions feel impossible. You've outsourced your reality testing to them, and they've systematically told you that your perceptions are wrong. Your feelings are overreactions. Your memories are flawed. Controlling the narrative controls the kingdom. The blackmailer controls the narrative of your life, rewriting your history until you no longer trust your own mind. Marker 6, compliance brings temporary relief, never resolution. You give in. The crisis passes, but the underlying demand never goes away. This is the blackmail cycle. Pressure, compliance, temporary peace, escalation. Extracting tribute. Each payment buys a brief reprieve, but the debt itself is eternal, designed never to be satisfied because your compliance is the goal, not any specific outcome. Marker 7. You can't explain the relationship to outsiders without sounding crazy. You start to tell someone, the words come out tangled. It's complicated. You don't understand. They're not always like this. Manipulated minds develop dual realities, the one they live and the one they present. You can't explain it because the logic is deliberately circular, the rules contradictory, the dynamic designed to make sense only from inside the fog. Fortune favors those who see clearly. If these markers resonate, you're not imagining it. You're seeing clearly, maybe for the first time, and clarity is threat to the blackmailer's power. Are they evil? Wrong question. Better question. What do they gain? Morality is irrelevant. Analyze incentives. Emotional blackmailers operate from a simple calculus. This behavior works. It gets them what they want, and often they're not even aware they're doing it, which makes them more dangerous, not less. The unconscious blackmailer. Most blackmailers aren't villains. They're terrified children in adult bodies, using the only tools they learned. Blackmail is often intergenerational, learned from parents, reinforced through relationships, never questioned because it masquerades as love. They genuinely believe that if you loved me is a valid framework, that your compliance proves your affection, that controlling you is how they stay safe. Men judge by appearances. The unconscious blackmailer judges love by behavioral compliance, not because they're cruel, but because no one taught them the difference. This doesn't excuse them, but it explains them. The control addiction. Some blackmailers are aware, partially, dimly. They feel the rush when you give in, the panic when you resist, and over time this becomes a compulsion. Some people are wired for dominance, for the thrill of having power over others. The emotional blackmailer gets a dopamine hit from your submission, not because they hate you, but because control feels like safety to them. Those who crave power often fear powerlessness most. The blackmailer's aggression is often rooted in terror. Terror of abandonment, inadequacy, irrelevance. They control you to control their fear. The zero-sum worldview. The blackmailer sees relationships as competitions. Someone wins, someone loses. Your autonomy feels like their diminishment. Your boundaries feel like rejection. Your happiness without them feels like betrayal. This isn't rational. It's a scarcity mindset applied to love, where your gain is automatically their loss, so they must limit your freedom to maintain equilibrium. Appearing generous while being calculating, the blackmailer appears loving while calculating how much autonomy they can extract from you without triggering your escape. The pattern they inherited. Most blackmailers were blackmailed first, as children, as partners. They learned that love is conditional, that needs are weapons, that vulnerability is a tactical error. Victims of thought reform often become enforcers. The abused becomes the abuser, not from malice, but from internalized logic. The blackmailer is replicating the only relationship model they know. We imitate those who raised us. The blackmailer imitates their programmer, often without knowing there's another way. Here's the critical point. Understanding why doesn't obligate you to stay. Compassion is valid. Boundaries are mandatory. The two coexist. A wise ruler never tolerates threats out of sympathy. Neither should you. Can you leave? Yes. Should you leave? Different question. Yours to answer. But how you navigate this, whether you stay and transform the dynamic or exit entirely, requires strategy, not emotion. Fortune favors the prepared. Here's the preparation. Step 1. Document reality. Your memories under siege. Write things down. Date them. What was said? What happened? How you felt? Create an external record that can't be rewritten by the blackmailer's revisionist history. Keep meticulous records of power maneuvers. You must do the same for emotional ones. When they say, "I never said that," you'll know you're not crazy. When they claim you're overreacting, you'll have evidence. This isn't about winning arguments. It's about maintaining sanity in a system designed to steal it. Step 2, name the game. Silence gives blackmail power. Speaking robs it. The next time you feel the fog descending, say it out loud. This feels like emotional blackmail. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to fight. You name the pattern, and naming breaks the spell. Awareness disrupts scripted games. The blackmailer relies on your unconscious participation. Deception requires the deceived to cooperate. Stop cooperating. Name what's happening. Step 3, stop defending yourself. The blackmailer baits you, you explain, justify, prove. This is the trap. Manipulators don't want understanding. They want engagement. Every defense you offer is data they'll use against you, evidence to be twisted, words to be reframed. Avoid unnecessary battles. Say less. "I've made my decision. I understand you're upset. I'm not discussing this further." Full stop. No justification. The blackmailer's frustration is not your emergency. Their disappointment is not your responsibility. This feels cruel at first. You've been trained to believe that caring means managing their feelings. It doesn't. Caring means respecting them enough to let them handle their own emotions. Step 4, implement broken record. They'll escalate. They'll try new angles. You repeat the same boundary, calmly, endlessly, like a broken record. "I understand," and my answer remains no. "I hear you, and I'm not changing my mind." Consistency signals strength. The blackmailer is testing whether you'll crack. A prince must be both lion and fox. The broken record is the lion, immovable, undebatable, present. Step 5, tolerate their discomfort. This is the hardest part. They'll suffer, loudly. Tears, anger, silence, threats. Your nervous system will scream at you to fix it, to soothe, to retreat. Don't. Their discomfort with your boundary is not proof the boundary is wrong. It's proof the boundary is necessary. You must develop emotional tolerance, the ability to witness someone's pain without assuming responsibility for it. Cruelty can be kindness when it prevents greater harm. Holding your boundary feels cruel. It's actually the most loving thing you can do. For them, because it forces growth, and for you, because it preserves your humanity. Step 6, build external supports. You can't do this alone. The blackmailer isolated you. Reverse it. Therapist, friend, support group. People who aren't in the fog, who can reflect reality back to you when the blackmailer tries to rewrite it. Alliances determine survival. Your allies aren't weapons, they're mirrors. They remind you who you are when the blackmailer has convinced you you're someone else. Step 7, plan your exit, even if you're not taking it. Know you can leave. Money, housing, support. Even if you choose to stay, knowing you could go changes the power dynamic. Learned helplessness evaporates when you realize you have options. Always have a fallback position. So should you. This isn't about threatening, it's about freedom. Real freedom requires viable alternatives. Map them. The moment you know you could survive without them is the moment you stop being a hostage. Step 8, decide with clarity, stay or go. Either is valid, but decide from strength, not fear. Some relationships can transform. The blackmailer, confronted with real consequences, chooses therapy, chooses change, chooses to learn a different way. Some can't, some won't. Judge people by their actions, not their promises. Watch what they do when you hold boundaries. If they adapt, there's hope. If they escalate, believe them. If they temporarily improve, then revert once you relax. That's the pattern. Believe it. Change requires the blackmailer to acknowledge the harm, commit to different behavior, and sustain it over time. Anything less is performance. Know when to be merciful and when to be ruthless. You must know when to give a relationship another chance and when to walk away. Neither makes you good or bad. Both require courage. This isn't just about escaping. It's about becoming unmanipulatable. Different goal, higher stakes. The ultimate lesson isn't about power over others. It's about not being vulnerable to others' power over you. Emotional blackmail only works if you carry the internal machinery it requires. The guilt, the fear, the desperate need for approval. Dismantle that machinery, and you don't just escape one blackmailer. You become immune to the entire category. This is transformation, not therapy, not healing. Rebirth as someone the old games cannot touch. Reclaim emotional responsibility. You are not responsible for others' feelings. Their happiness is not your job. Their anger is not your fault. Their disappointment is not your emergency. This doesn't mean you ignore their feelings. It means you stop believing that feeling them is your obligation. Totalist systems collapse when members reclaim individual agency. Depending on others makes you weak. Depending on others' emotions makes you a puppet. Cut the strings. Redefine love. Love is not sacrifice. Love is not submission. Love is not erasing yourself to make room for someone else. The blackmailer taught you a corrupted definition. Love as transaction, as debt, as proof through compliance. Real love includes boundaries, includes the word no, includes two whole people choosing each other from freedom, not fear. Fear-based loyalty crumbles. Love-based loyalty sustains, but only if it's actual love, not its weaponized counterfeit. Develop internal validation. You've been outsourcing your worth to the blackmailer, to their approval. Bring it home. Manipulators target those who need external validation. If you don't need their approval to feel worthwhile, they have no leverage. This isn't arrogance, it's self-possession. A prince should not depend on fortune. You should not depend on others to tell you you're enough. You decide that, you anchor it. And when the blackmailer withdraws approval, you feel the sting. You're human, but you don't collapse because your foundation is internal now. Practice radical honesty with yourself first. What do you actually feel? What do you actually want? Not what you should feel, not what makes you good. What's true? The blackmailer trained you to distrust your own perceptions. Reclaim them. Recovery starts with trusting your own experience again. Self-deception is the most dangerous deception. Stop lying to yourself about what's tolerable, what's acceptable, what's not that bad. The truth might be ugly. It's also liberating. Build a life that doesn't need them. Hobbies, friendships, purpose, things that exist independent of the relationship. The blackmailer wants to be your entire world, partly from insecurity, partly from control. Resist. Diversified power is stable power. Diversify your sources of meaning, connection, joy. When the relationship is your only source of identity, you'll tolerate anything to keep it. When it's one part of a rich life, you can evaluate it clearly. Does this add value or does it extract it? Embrace conflict. Healthy relationships include disagreement. The blackmailer taught you that conflict means catastrophe, that differing opinions threaten connection. They're wrong. Mature relationships include exchanges, where both parties can disagree without the relationship imploding. Good advisors tell rulers hard truths. Good relationships let you tell hard truths too. If your relationship can't survive you saying, "I disagree," or "that hurt me," or "I need something different," it's not a relationship. It's a hostage situation with affection. Forgive yourself. You stayed longer than you should have. You gave more than was wise. You missed red flags, ignored your instincts, talked yourself into staying. Victims of emotional blackmail carry profound shame. Shame for being stupid enough to fall for it. Shame for not leaving sooner. Release it. Fortune favors the bold, but context matters. You didn't have the knowledge then that you have now. You were doing your best with the tools available. The blackmailer is skilled. You're not weak for being affected. You're human. The transformation isn't about erasing what happened. It's about integrating the lesson, strengthening the boundaries, and walking forward as someone who knows better now. Not because you're smarter, but because you've seen the machinery and you've chosen not to power it anymore. Skill over luck. You can't control whether you encounter blackmailers. You can control whether you remain vulnerable to them. That's the transformation. Knowledge is power, but only if you apply it. You've just absorbed the architecture of emotional blackmail. The fog, the faces, the machinery, the escape routes, the transformation. This wasn't entertainment. This was ammunition. The blackmailer depends on your ignorance, your compliance, your belief that what you feel is just how relationships are. You know differently now. Fear, obligation, guilt. 3 words, 1 system, 0 hold over you unless you give it permission. Emotional blackmail collapses when the victim stops participating, not through aggression, but through calm, informed, strategic boundary setting. Power respects strength. The blackmailer will test you. They'll escalate. They'll promise change, then revert. They'll make you feel cruel for holding a boundary, selfish for having needs, crazy for trusting your own perception. Hold anyway. Because here's the truth the blackmailer fears. You don't need them more than you need yourself. They taught you otherwise. They needed you to believe your worth came from their approval, that your safety required their presence, that leaving would destroy you. It's a lie, a strategic, self-serving lie designed to keep you compliant. You are not responsible for their emotions. You are not obligated by their sacrifices. You are not guilty for wanting freedom. If this video gave you language for what you've been experiencing, if it made the invisible visible, then you've already started the process. The next step is yours. Document, name, boundary, decide. The greatest risk is taking no risk. Staying in a blackmail dynamic feels safe because it's familiar. But familiarity isn't safety. It's slow suffocation disguised as love. You deserve a relationship where no doesn't trigger crisis, where your needs aren't evidence of selfishness, where love doesn't require erasing yourself. That relationship exists, maybe with this person, transformed, maybe with someone else, maybe with yourself first, learning to be your own sanctuary before you offer that space to another. The wise adapt, the foolish repeat. You've been given the pattern. You see it now. The question is whether you'll adapt or whether you'll walk back into the fog, hoping this time will be different. It won't be. Not without intervention, not without boundaries, not without the willingness to endure their discomfort for the sake of your freedom. This is the knowledge. Use it. And if you found this valuable, if it named what you couldn't articulate, if it gave you clarity where there was only confusion, then others need it too. Someone you know is living this right now, wondering if they're imagining it, believing they're the problem. Share this. Not for me, for them. Because knowledge is power, but only when it circulates. Every person who learns to recognize emotional blackmail is one less person the blackmailer can control. That's not revenge. That's prevention. The fog only works in isolation. Shine light. Speak truth. Teach others what you've learned. That's how this ends. Not with victims and blackmailers, but with people who know the game and refuse to play. You're one of them now. Act accordingly.